Boker Tov, Yom Tov, Zoharim Tovim, and Laila Tov. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Carrie. I hope that this finds you well no matter where you are at. I had a question that was presented to me regarding a scripture that is found in Revelation chapter 12, and I thought that it was really good to take a look at. But before we begin to dive into that, I needed to share something with you. My interpretations, or my husband's interpretations, are based upon where we are at in the summation of the total of our journey that we find ourselves in our now, in our today. When we present these things to you, we are not telling you, but rather we are sharing with you that which our eye and our perception is seeing in this moment of time. And it's important that I share that with you because really we are all wrestling our journey, and dependent upon our perceptions attached to ego will determine what we see and hear, not only in our interactions with other people, but also what we see within the languages of light and love within themselves. A quick story. We were gathering with some people quite a few years ago. I think it's been about 6 years ago. And it was the beginning phases of us studying the Hebrew language. And we were wanting to introduce people to the letters, at least in the understanding that every symbol has a meaning to it, meaning the Aleph has a meaning of strength, strong, leader, things of that nature. And we were using the word love because in English, the word love is used for so many things to compare, and yet it doesn't really encompass the totality of the expression of love. It's actually very limiting. And when we were discussing this with the people that we were with, my husband simply said, I can say in one breath, I love my wife, and then in the next breath, I love hamburger. And there was an individual there that we were meeting with, and her first knee-jerk reaction and response that came out of her mouth was, are you calling us hamburger? You know, we were so shocked to hear that response. But it really now, in hindsight, lets me know that that's what she heard. And in the mirror reflection, that's what she felt about herself. So therefore, the words that we were saying, even though it was not directed, it was in purity and innocence, we were just using it as a point to talk about love. She actually thought that she was hamburger, that maybe she wasn't worthy of love in the form of like the love of a husband and wife. So I share that with you because the languages are exactly the same way. Dependent upon where you are at in the summational journey, the totality of your ingathering, what you see in the languages is going to reflect that which is within you. And because it is a language of duality, many times you will see one Hebrew word that has the exact opposite meaning. Like there's two meanings, two definitions for the same word that are opposing one another. Well, that is because we live in the system of duality, and it is the languages that are used in our school of divinity for us to grow and mature through and in as we use it as a tool for a mirror within ourselves. So if you have reached that place within you where you have unified everything and uh, you see things within you that are beautiful and wonderful and kind and incredible, all of those beautiful positive attributes, every time you look at the Hebrew language, that is what you are going to see, because that is what is being reflected from the inside of you, and you are seeing the mirror through the language as it reflects back to you. And as we move into um, the age of Aquarius, now entering into light and love, we are taking the languages and we are cutting off the things that no longer serve us so that we can manifest that which is. And for Ken and I, as we interpret these things, as we see them, we are rendering everything into the place of love and light, the things that are beautiful, the things that bring us into unconditional love and into the oneness unity, which is the Aleph. I know we've had quite a few people say that we are of the New Age movement, and honestly, I don't even really know what New Age is all about or what they teach. All I know is that some of the things that people have presented to us that I've taken a look at, they mirror exactly what the Hebrew language is saying, because that has been our foundation. That is what we started studying. That is what we began to see, the oneness principle in the Aleph itself. And then these other things were brought specifically to me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, they're all talking about that which the Spirit already showed us through the language. So, like I said, I don't really know what they teach. I don't know what the Kabbalists teach. I don't know what the New Age teaches. I just know what the language has been teaching us through the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh. So now having said all of that, my interpretations that I'm sharing with you are a summation total of what I am seeing. I am sharing these with you for you to mull them over. I'm not telling you that this is what they are and to take it as a firm foundation for you to stand upon. If you don't see it that way, then that is because the Spirit is sharing something else with you, something else that you need to see in your journey. But if it is resonating to you, then the mirror is reflecting the same thing to you that it is reflecting to me. And that is why we see it, that's why we hear it, and that's why we gravitate towards it, because that is the process that has happened within us. So let's take a look and see what Revelation chapter 12, verse 11 is speaking to us. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of his testimony, but they loved not their lives unto the death. There's much we could go into about this whole Revelation chapter 12, and I have said before, and I am going to, but it takes a tremendous amount of time and energy, and there's many other more demanding things that are needing to be brought forth, because I know many of you are wanting to be able to learn how to do this on your own. So as much as I want to go verse by verse for this whole chapter 12, especially with the sign, the Revelation 12 sign, which we will be going through, right now I'm specifically needing to address this one verse. And eventually I will get there once I can get these teachings underway, and then we can start diving into them together. So they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of his testimony. Let's look at this word by word here. In the beginning of this, we have the word that, those, and who. And the root of this is a hey vav. And what we are seeing that the vav is there. There's so much. Guys, I hope that you can begin to see that there is so much more that is in these languages that are left out in English. I've tried many times to convey that to people who want to bring the English scriptures to me, to share with them how much depth in what is being lost in translation. And that's why I want to share it with you letter by letter. This is a perfect case in point in a very simple word, that, those, and who. And in its root, the lump of clay, because we came in being formless and void, if you remember our teachings on tohu and bohu, we need to shape and form ourselves into something that is anything other than being formless and void. And so in this lump of clay, what is happening to make this a verb from a static position of just being a lump? So what kind of vessel are we creating? And what we have had added here is we have the vav added on the prefix, we have the nun added within the root itself, and then the nun sofit or fallen nun on the suffix side. So the message that is given to us when we go back to the simple root of that, those, and who, we are talking about those who have found the spiritual path within themselves. Because again, the nun, when it is in its risen state, has to do with the seed of life. It has to do with perpetuity. It has to do with making and creating heirs, seeds, progeny. It also has to do with building a very strong foundation for us. And because it's in its elevated state, it is not in the lower flesh material world. So what is this saying? So it is pertaining to those who found the spiritual path within them. They connected to Mother. This is on the prefix side, so it has to do with Mother's teaching and the Golden Rule. They have connected with Mother, who has brought forth the revelation to them of the spiritual path that they need to find within them, that will make an heir out of them and give them that seed of life, so that they can connect it to while they are in the fallen flesh in the material world. That is who this is talking about. So when you want to know, and they, we are talking about those who found the spiritual path within. That is who this is referring to. So it's very helpful for us to be able to determine who they are in this situation. Moving on to the next word, we have overcame or overcome. This root is a zayin, kaf, aleph. But in this case, the aleph is not there, it's been removed. So these ones that have overcome, it is not saying that these that have overcome have connected yet to the oneness principle. So they that overcome is those who have connected to Father. Because remember, Mother, and we've shared this before, Mother is the gatekeeper to the Father's teaching, to the hidden teaching, to make sure that the measure level of people that are entering in, that they are humble and that they are teachable, and that they have at least found the golden rule within their lives. And in this word overcoming, what are we overcoming? Well, the Zayin has come, and it is a sword and a plow. So the plow goes within to break up the fallow ground so the seed can be planted, but it also is a sword to cut off that which no longer is serving us. So it does both. And then we have the kaf, which means to be bent, to be tamed, to be yoked, to be a cup, a vessel that is ready to be filled with the kaf pei, the pei that speaks revelation, pei, the revelation of the sacred languages that you can connect to. So how did they that found the spiritual path overcome? Well, they found the languages. They found the revelation that allowed them to connect to Father's hidden teaching. Now we move into the word blood. Now this is important. We did share recently, Ken released a teaching regarding light, and then I released a teaching about the compression of light, that light is found within the blood. So because of our indoctrination, and again, many times when I'm speaking, I'm broad-sorting to a wide audience, and so I'm not pinpointing anyone in particular unless it pertains to you. So again, this is a broad sword, and I'm sharing, and I'm pouring out my unconditional love for everyone, and dependent on how it comes up to your filters will be whether or not it is impacting you as something that you're wrestling with, or if you have overcome that and this indoctrination is no longer within you. So for those of us who have been indoctrinated by the blood, we have tried to show the other perspective about the light that is in there, and that really blood is just congealed light, has been slowed down. So in this case, if we do not understand the Hebrew idiom of blood is related to the covenant of promise, then we do not understand the process of our becoming. The covenant of promise is given to those who enter through the door of their inner man, where it is revealed to them that they are weak and feeble in the spirit. The revelation comes to them so that they can deliver themselves by finding the deep well that is within them, the waters that reside within that'll bring forth a revelation of the living water teachings of Mother and Father. And every time you see the mem, it is created, the symbol is created by two mems. You do not see the second one, it is hidden. It is the Father's teaching, because the first thing that must be presented to you as Mother. Nobody comes to the Father but by me, and Yeshua was a representation of Mother's teaching to make sure that everybody was entering into that golden rule in the linear thinking first before they could enter into Father's teaching, because it is so powerful that it needs to be protected from those who are in the lesser regressive part of their entity where the beast ego is still attached and has not been tamed. But for those who overcame, they've already tamed it. That's what this whole thing is about. So, what are we seeing then through the blood? The covenant of promise, the door within to find the living water teachings. Well, the bet has been added, and so is the aleph. So those who are overcoming are connecting to the Father, and through the process of building, they're inside, because bet means inside, but it is also the representation of the 222, very personal journey to Ken and I. We speak about it in many of our teachings, the process of building love through covenant, which is an inside job that must be done through the spiritual path. Because Bet comes from Bana, and since there is no noon in the symbol Bet itself, this means that this is building a spiritual concept that really has nothing to do pertaining to the flesh. And it's through the building process that we then go through that door of the inner man to find the living water teachings that do what? The covenants of promise are meant to bring us into the unified field of oneness. This is the Mashiach anointing. I and my Father are one. That is why this Aleph is on the Father side. This isn't been added to the prefix. This is now saying that those who have overcome connecting to the Father, they built through the covenant of promise and are now unified with the Father as one. And how did they do that? So we have the blood, the covenant of promise, and then we have the word lamb, which I find is very interesting because it also means sheep. But let's take a look at this here. As we go down, lamb and sheep, it's the word amar. And anyone that knows Hebrew, well, I'll just show you. Amar, to utter and to say. To say, used with great latitude. I am going to actually use another resource to be able to bring this. This is Janet Magura's Aramaic Peshitta New Testament Dictionary Number Lexicon, and her ministry is called The Light of the Word Ministry, and this is a very wonderful tool for us to use. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her definition into this. I hadn't really prepared to do this, so I'm kind of doing this teaching on the fly. Amar means, as more information given, is say, tell, speak, speak of, declare, and announce, to be called, and to mean. And it's a Hebrew idiom that means the question is the answer. So I love that this brings all of that in there because there is a declaring and announcing that is coming through what they translated as the Lamb. And it has the meaning of to be called. So this is to those who are called. And the question is the answer. Well, who is called? Those who are of the mother, that is, are speaking to the poor and the destitute in order to raise them up to be the first fruits. This is the word. Speaking, declaring, and announcing something. And since we have the Dalet in the front and the Aleph on the back, we have that Mother is coming as a representation of the frequency of the door. And the door's job is to open this revelation up to you, to point to you that you have an inward door within that needs to be opened so that she can bring forth that which is necessary to raise you up to be a first fruit leader, because she is going to declare this to you. She's going to announce this to you as you are being called to be raised up. And Mother, since there is the oneness here, Mother is Father is Ab, Mother is also as one. So Mother has, because Aleph has these meanings as well, through the unified letters, Aleph, Lamed, Pei, one who has been taught, so therefore they teach. They have tamed and yoked their beast nature. They are associated with the oneness unity, and they have the thousandfold anointing in the unified field. They have been given the staff of authority to teach, where they are going to urge and goad you on in this process, and they have been given the mouth to speak forth the revelation that will be able to help and assist you through the living water teachings to raise you up into becoming one in the unified field. So we just explained to you what the blood of the Lamb is, and it has to do with the covenants of promise. It has nothing to do with Yeshua being crucified on the cross. That is a Church of Rome construct that would lead us away from everything that we were meant to see through the covenant of promise. That's why they hid everything that was Hebrew. That is why they changed the language and put everything into Latin or into Greek, so that, and even tell you that there were no Aramaic scriptures, so that it would whitewash everything to do with us becoming one. That is why I want to be able to share these things with you. And it was written in Aramaic, the words that are above here. The trouble is that most of us do not know Aramaic. It is very, very foreign to us, and there's more of us that are aware of the Hebrew. That's why I show you this because they do transfer letter per letter. An Aramaic aleph is the same as the Hebrew aleph. The mem is the same, and the resh is the same. So the lamb is actually that which speaks, declares, and announces things to you, to those who are being called. So if you are seeing this and you are feeling this, then there's a good chance that you are being called to be able to receive what is being shared to you through the living languages of light and love. Then we have the word hand, through, and near. And it's interesting because in the translations, they don't even have that word at all. As you can see, they have down below, by the blood of the Lamb and by the word. This is word. They didn't even put hand in there. They just left it out. John Etheridge and King James Version decided to leave this word out in its entirety, which is crazy to me. So hand is the word Yod Dalet, and Yod Dalet means power. It means and direction. It is the open hand. It is the one that does the work and deed of the hand. And it is through the Yod, which is the vision. And just to let you know, the gematria for Yod, the same letter to number total, is the same gematria for the word Kazah, meaning a vision. That's why you hear me use that, and even can use that interchangeable. So here is a vision that is being given to you, that is the work and the deed of your hand. So by going through the door of the inward man, the door that is being opened up to you on the inside, there's a revelation that you need to do something with. And Mother is trying to connect you to that so you can build yourself on the inside by giving what you need to do through the work and deed of your hand. In other words, meaning that when this comes to you, it is your job to do the work. Nobody's going to do it for you. The door presents it to you. Mother brings it to you to raise you up into the unified field, but you need to be able to connect to it to build yourself on the inside, and it is going to be your work to do it. Then we have the word, word, and in the simple form of worm, it's mem lamed. Ken has shared this before with people, and I don't know if you're going to connect to it, but mel is short for the term mellifluous, and mellifluous is the ancient word that's used for honey. We've also discussed that mother is the bitter, mar, which is literally the Hebrew word for bitter. It's also the same word mar for myrrh that Esther did 6 months worth of soaking in before she got to the frankincense, which is literally Laban, which means sweet, scent. Well, here we have the sweetness, mel, of the word. Your word is like honey to my lips. And since this is the root of mel, and I will show that to you so that you're following and seeing that I'm not adding anything here. Mem lamed here. Word, case, cause, matter. Mem lamed. Because we now see it, it has the Tav Aleph. The Tav is the mark, sign, covenant, signature frequency, fingerprint of the Father that is given to those who are then marked and sealed with the unified field. So the purpose of the Word is to present to you the living water teachings of Mother and Father that are going to be the teaching shepherds to you, so you can be marked with the covenant of the Father's signature, which also is a Tav Vav, meaning that you are exempt from judgment, meaning you have stopped judging because you've entered into the field of oneness, meaning that you no longer see the system of duality, meaning you have stopped judging yourself. And when you stop judging yourself, you automatically no longer judge anyone else. And that is through the process of the word that is being brought to you. But you are going to have to wrestle it. This is something you're going to have to build on the inside through the work and deed of your hand by going through the word and the process of the living water teachings that are going to instruct you on how to make this happen in your life. Then we have testimony. And testimony in its root is Semek Hey Dalet. And we see that right here, Samek Dalet. In Jastro's Dictionary of the Targum, the Talmud, and the Midrashic literature, this word that we see as a testimony means to be sure, be present, and to witness. I love that. To be sure, to be present, and to witness. So when we take a look at this, to be sure, to be a witness, we have Samek Dalet, and this is the testimony. And the reason why I love this is to be sure. In the past conversations I've had with people, many, I wouldn't say many, I've been very blessed with the people that have come to our channel. There has been a few that have not agreed with the things that we are presenting, but having a testimony and to be sure of what I'm seeing is that my foundation doesn't shift anymore, because I do see the letters and I do see what has been penned to us, and I see how much it is being presented to us so that we can overcome, so that we can have the power that we need through the covenants of promise to be able to have things spoken and declared over us, because we are called, and the work and the deed of our hand, where we are building ourselves on the inside through the word that then brings forth the covenant, the signature frequency of the Father, where we are exempt from judgment and we're in the unified field, because we are a witness and a testimony to the power. And so what makes us as a witness and a testimony, where that we are sure-footed in what we are speaking? Well, if we take a look at the root itself, Samek Dalet, the Samek means to prop you up, support you, hedge you in, surround you with the shield of thorns. And it also is a representation of the wedding ring and the signet ring, because it is attached to a revelation that was given to you to go through the door of the inward man to reveal what you need to deliver yourself from your poor and feeble state. That is why you are a witness and a testimony. And again, this is in the static form of it. So what changes it from the lump of clay, where it's no longer just tohu bohu, formless and void, is because the door came to present this information and open it up to you, so that through the process you would become a wedded one, as it revealed to you that door that is on the inside of you, so that you can connect to the Father in the power of meekness, being sealed in His covenant frequency signature of the covenant of unconditional love, and you will be revealed as one who has and is a witness and a testimony of this process. Then we have the word, but they loved, or but they loved not. But has been added. That would be from the Vav. But when you're looking at this, again, very difficult to take a word meaning not and be able to translate what it's saying. Not in the English means that something hasn't arrived or it isn't of something. But in every Hebrew word, there is a resolve that is placed within the Hebrew word itself to take that what isn't and make it into what is. And when you take a look at it, the directions, the blueprint is already there. So that which is not, how do we change it? Well, first thing is we need to be teachable and humble and connect to Mother. Then she is going to instruct us as a teaching shepherd of light in the way of oneness. It is her job to start the process so that those things that are not then can become as is. And what are we being taught as is? Love. This is the word. In Hebrew it's ahava, but in Aramaic it's achav. And ach means brother. So this is really about the brotherhood or the family that builds and connects themselves to the Father in meekness. So we have humility and teachability and meekness as we are instructed in the way of one, becoming the brotherhood that builds love through the 222, the two paths of the 22 letters, the first pass through of Mother and then of Father, the divine feminine and the divine masculine, the Hebrew and the Aramaic, that are building love. And this is presented by those who have been taught, and so therefore they teach. They've tamed and yoked themselves. They have the thousandfold anointing. They have been given the mouth to speak and the staff of authority to teach, and they speak revelation through the sacred languages to bring forth life to you. This is chet, which means in the outside, but this is, we've dealt with the inside right here, and this is the outside. So building love through the oneness unity is to build yourself in love on the outside, in the inside. And this is going to bring you life through the covenant of love, building the family through the spiritual path, and not one that is of the material realm, but the spiritual journey of building your temple and connecting in meekness to the Father. Then we have what they said lives, but this is nefesh, and this has to do with flesh. And when it has to deal with flesh, we are talking about the ego, the beast ego, because the beast ego is what is attached to our flesh suit. And the ego can only live and be sustained within our flesh suit. It has nothing to do with the spiritual side of it. And as you can see, it's talking about the soul, the breath of life, and self, the ego. So, what do we do with the ego? Well, the resolve is in there. So we're already talking about building love, the brotherhood of love, and then we have to deal with our soul, we have to deal with ourself, we have to deal with our flesh. But the resolve is for those who take the spiritual journey through the mouth that brings forth revelation of the sacred languages, we will go through the consuming fire that gives us the power, means, and direction to overcome our fallen flesh, beast, ego nature. And the Father's teaching will be revealed to us so that we can connect to it while we are in the fallen flesh. So, in other words, in learning to build love, we are connecting to that, to our flesh, so that we can get rid of that which separates us, the revelation that is going to come to us, because we're not loving the flesh side of it, we are loving the process that is being revealed to us so that we can connect to this process and journey in the fallen flesh, in the material world, so that we can overcome it. And then we have the word meaning until, or unto death. This word, it's important that we see it in what is contained, because again, in English they can't capture the essence of everything that is found, because all you see is unto. So they take all of this beautiful information that is contained right here and shove it into one English word that doesn't have a vibrational signature to it. So you can't see what this word means until death, or unto death. Ad. Let's take a look at this here. Ad means perpetuity. And if you can look at the very first usage of this word, we can see shall reign forever and ever. So there's something that is connected here. This is, by the way, Leolam Vayed. This is a very common phrase in the Hebrew community. But we have ad here, which is perpetuity, a terminus, a duration, an advance, a sense of advance or perpetuity. So when I take a look at that and I see it means advance or perpetuity, means that moving forward, advancing on from a place that we were once at to where we are going. And then it comes from the word adah. And adah has the meaning of adorn, to pass on and to advance, to bedeck, and also to remove, to bring an ornament upon or to remove in the process of advancing or passing on. So, in passing and being removed, there's something that is going on here, but we have the blood that is continued to be a theme. So the covenant of promise is meant for us to be able to pass on, to advance, to continue on, to be bedecked and adorned with something that is perpetual. And what do we have in the beginning of this? We have the ayin, the eyes to see the fountain within that gives us the power, means, and direction to overcome our fallen flesh nature, so that we know that we are of perpetuity. We are of the everlasting. We are eternal beings. And the covenant that is given to us through the blood, the covenant of promises, which there is a measurement that we must reach, comes through the living water teachings of Mother and Father that bring forth the oneness principle. So that is unto or until, which is speaking of eternity. Then we have death. This is the root for death, but look at what we have in front. We have an added lamed. This is the instructions of death. And what is that? It's being able to instruct us how to go through the waters of chaos, which is our forgetting, so that we can connect to the covenant of love and knowing that we are one. So that means that this is the instruction of that which allows us to pass on and pass through and be removed from death, knowing that we are one and that we are eternal beings, that we are unified with one another, that we are sealed in the oneness unity, the Mashiach anointing, as those who have been instructed and teach. They've yoked and tamed their beast ego nature, and at this point they have delivered themselves from that and entered into the unified field. These are those who overstand death. They have died to self. They've rid themselves of the beast ego nature. That is why they are of one. So they overcame. And how did they overcome? Through love. And they dealt with their flesh. They dealt with the beast ego nature through the spiritual path. The revelation came how to connect to what they needed to do in their fallen flesh so that they could be and pass on into eternity, bedecked and adorned through the living water teachings as they went through the chaos to find the waters of Shalom in the oneness principle, as teaching shepherds of life that totally can instruct in the ways of dying to self so that you can become one. That is what is being shared through those who overcame by the blood of the Lamb. And again, this is my representation of the interpretation as I see it, as a summational total of my journey in time and the level of light that I have compressed within to bring this forth to you today. Shalom, shalom, and namaste.